this when you say it?
Hello.
Welcome.
We're here. Welcome to another episode of Showboys.
Another exciting episode.
Another exciting episode. My name is Mike, your host.
I am Nick.
He is Nick. And we are joined by a special guest, the one and only Bekah.
Hello.
Hello.
No, you gotta say it to the camera, not him.
I don't know, like it feels weird.
I mean, I know you.
I talk to myself all day on the phone, so now I'm like, there's someone here.
Don't worry,
listening to me.
Don't worry, no one's here.
Ignore him, like you always do. Just ignore him.
Okay, this will be a natural thing for me then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Should be no different than normal. But yes, Bekah is joining us tonight. She is my wife, my lovely wife, the mother of my children, and a famous Instagrammer.
Ooh.
So, yeah, we have a fun episode for you guys tonight. What are we talking about, Nick?
We are doubling down on the comedy this month. I guess February is the funny month, but we went from rom-coms to now sitcoms.
Yes. And kind of like rom-coms, of late, I haven't been a super huge fan of sitcoms. So,
Your honorable mention list says differently.
yeah, once we started getting into it, I realized how many sitcoms I actually like. And thanks to a recent watch of a show that is going to be on my list, and I assume is going to be on both of your lists, kind of brought on the idea for tonight's topic. So, yeah, really excited to get into it. Bekah loves watching sitcoms, and it's one of the types of shows that we like to watch together. So it made a lot of sense to have her come on. And yeah, I'm excited to get into it. So we decided to do our own top 3 lists. So we'll have 9 picks for you guys. We learned from our last episode of lists with guests.
Showboys top 15.
Yeah, we decided maybe doing top 5s with 3 people. It might take a little while. So we had an epic 3-hour-long episode of our top 5 favorite games with Chad. So we decided to narrow it down to 3. So we'll have hopefully 9 sitcom ideas for you guys to watch or reminisce about tonight. Yeah.
We'll keep it at 2.5 hours, Beck.
Good. It's past my bedtime already.
I was going to say, I mean, isn't it your bedtime? Or...
I thought this happened at 8, and I was like, wait a minute. It's at 9? That's like an hour past bedtime.
She's literally married to me, and I've been doing this since September. At the same time every Thursday night.
I'm already asleep. You go down early, so I assume that the podcast started at 8:30 this whole time. So
the time's changing already. First it was 8, and then it was 8:30. We're getting a little closer.
I was asleep, so
yes. But yeah, we'll just get right into it. I figured like last week, maybe it'll be a good idea to start out with defining what a sitcom is. And it's pretty simple. It is defined as a situational comedy sitcom. But this genre of comedy is usually centered on a fixed set of characters who mostly carry over from episode to episode. Critics disagree with classifying shows these days as sitcoms, as the modern shows use a single camera setup and do not use laugh tracks or film in front of a live audience. And they are now commonly referred to as dramedies. So, yeah, your drama comedies. So I was kind of wondering what sitcom actually like stood for, but makes sense. Is that kind of like...
I thought it meant you sit and you watch a comedy. That's what I thought it was all this time.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, you sit there and you laugh. Hopefully, if it's a good show.
It's true. But
though I did come across, when I was going through my list, I think I do agree with like the contemporary idea of a sitcom versus the modern one. So I was like, some of these aren't pure comedies. They're definitely very drama driven that happen to be funny.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
Yeah, the whole situational comedy really opens up a lot of shows to be considered sitcoms. Like like I've talked about before on episodes, while I'm trying to refresh my brain of things I've watched in the past, I, Google, best horror movies or whatever, if we're making a horror movie list, and I'll scroll through and see what's on the list that I've seen already to kind of like jog my memory. And I was looking on, some of these lists, and I was like, oh, that's a sitcom. Okay. That's a sitcom. All right. So that kind of like opened up the parameters for me a little bit, but what do you think? Does that sound like a pretty...
Yeah, I mean, I read some of your notes there, so I don't want to give...
Don't read.
Teleprompter, it's scripted.
We were both talking about like Googling and finding things that actually work. No, don't do that.
No, go ahead.
Read that.
Keep talking.
Anyways, we were Googling and we were both surprised of like what was considered a sitcom, which WandaVision, we started watching recently. We were both like, that's a sitcom? I didn't think it was considered one of those.
Yeah, exactly. That's
like a nod
so that was
to a
good
sitcom.
I feel like that made a lot more sense reading what that was then.
Well, and it's literally like the first 3 or 4 episodes are parodies of actual sitcoms. So
valid point.
Whoa, spoiler.
I mean, all you got to do is watch a trailer and you'll know that.
You haven't watched that yet?
No, I mean, I saw the trailer actually just a couple of days ago. I went into that show completely blind, and then I saw a trailer and I was like, what the heck? Ruined half the show for me.
Yeah.
They need to stop doing that in Marvel. I mean, they just need to stop doing trailers for that stuff. It would be so much better if they just left it alone.
Yeah. Kind of getting a little off topic like we tend to do on our show here.
Marvel talk.
Yeah.
For next hour.
Welcome to Marvel, boys and girl. Yeah. For most things that I want to watch, I'll try to stay away from trailers for the most part, especially if it's something I'm super interested in, because I want to try to recapture that Scott Pilgrim vs. the World watching experience that I had, knowing nothing about that movie and going and seeing it in theaters. However, with Marvel, I really enjoy watching the MCU stuff, but I don't care if stuff gets spoiled for that because I'm not like super invested in the story. Like the Marvel movies follow a pretty specific formula, right? So once you've seen one, you've pretty much seen them all. They're predictable. You know what's going to happen. And that's fine because they're fun movies. So I watch like every MCU trailer, every like breakdown YouTube video of like episode 6 of WandaVision. This is what really happened. Here's all the Easter eggs. But like, I don't like doing that for other things. But with Marvel, it's like, there are no rules. I'll watch whatever. But yeah, back to sitcoms. I guess I'll start us off. I don't want to throw Bekah under the bus and make her go first. So, and she doesn't even listen to our podcast, so she's not quite, up to date on how the format works here. So,
I'd like to defend myself there. Thank you very much. I listened to last week's episode because it was on rom-coms. Thank you.
There we go.
I mean, it's only half because I finished laundry early, but
plus one new listener.
Yes. Yeah. Our oldest heard her name or like talked about, Mike was talking about her, and she was like, the podcast is about me. So
yes.
Today she thinks that. So
yeah.
We'll let her think that.
But yeah, so I'll start us off and then I'll let Nick go and then you can go so you can kind of see how things work. But we're talking our top 3 favorite sitcoms, and coming in at number 3 for me is That 70s Show. Now this ran from 1998 to 2006. It had about 8 seasons, and the reviews, it had an 8.1 out of 10 on IMDb and a 77% on Rotten Tomatoes, which I think is kind of low, but it's an older show. I'll let it pass, I guess. But this show was really funny. The cast is hilarious, and a lot of the young actors in this show kind of like got their start in their acting careers from this show, I think, or at least it kind of like really helped elevate them and get them off to a good start. So we have like Topher Grace as Eric Foreman, Mia Kunis as Jackie, Ashton Kutcher as Kelso, Danny Masterson as Hyde, Laura Prepon as Donna, Wilmer Valderrama as Fez, and then our more experienced actors and actresses, Kurtwood Smith as Red Foreman, Deborah Jo Rupp as Kitty Foreman, and Tommy Chong as Leo, from Cheech and Chong. But Deborah Jo Rupp, speaking of WandaVision, she actually was in an episode. Spoiler alert. Not really spoiler alert, Kitty, because it's not at least at this point, a character that is playing a large part in the story. But she makes an appearance, which is kind of funny because, sitcoms, and then she was on this amazing sitcom, and she makes a little appearance in WandaVision. But I just have a lot of fond memories watching this show as a child, actually, probably, 98, 2006. So middle school, high school age, I would watch this show with my parents. And we recently, Bekah and I went and, this was a couple years ago.
Maybe.
I think we were living in the old house. So
no, we definitely watched it like a few months ago.
That's not true. That's pregnancy brain coming out there.
No, it was definitely here.
It was just like last week.
It was actually right before we went live. We watched all 8 seasons. But we recently went back and rewatched it because Bekah, as I've talked about on the show many times, has lived a relatively sheltered pop culture life. So I've been able to relive my past and rewatch a lot of really cool stuff with her. I don't think we finished it all the way.
No.
We got close, but obviously the show is way funnier as an adult than it was when I was in middle school or high school.
Yeah.
But there were many times where I was like laughing hysterically on the couch. Red and Kitty are like hilarious as parents. The scenes around the table when they're all getting high are like iconic and hysterical. There's a lot of pop culture phrases that came out of this, like, Kelso always yelling burn whenever someone gets burned, which you literally just said like an hour ago.
I should just use that.
And then all the lines of Red sticking his foot up Eric's tushy. And then obviously iconic characters like Kelso, Hyde, and Fez. Eric, really it's any character on the show is iconic at this point. And, just a few examples of actors and actresses from this that kind of launched their career from this show. Ashton Kutcher, Mia Kunis, Topher Grace. And then, as Nick and I had mentioned a lot on the show, it's the little things. The music, the open to this show, where they're all in the car, like switching seats in the car and rocking out to that amazing rock song. I love it. It's great. I learned it on guitar, actually. Hello, Wisconsin. Let's go. Gets me pumped and ready to watch it. But did you get, I know you watched it.
Yeah, but I also feel like you do that with every single TV show we watch. You immediately go and learn the themes on some instrument downstairs.
She is not wrong.
Everything.
You like jingles, openers.
Yes. I learned how to play piano by learning the Dead Island theme song 1 and 2 for that game. But what did you think of the show?
I liked it. I do wish we would have finished it, though. I don't know why we stopped, but I think we just got distracted by other things.
Yeah.
But it was a really funny show. I enjoyed it. I really like Red. I think he was my favorite.
What I kind of realized when I was building my list here of it, I can't say I've watched a lot of sitcoms, I guess, but the ones I do watch, the ones that I finish, they have to be completed. It's hard to keep up with sitcoms that are ongoing because one, they come out at a very consistent frequency, which is good and bad. But 2, there's also usually a lot of episodes. Sometimes. So I go to them and I'm like, I can't tell you if there's a new season or not. And there probably is, and I haven't seen it. So
yeah,
we're going to have a lot of unfinished a lot of unfinished seasons here, but that's okay. We still know if they're good or bad.
Yeah. Did you watch this show at all?
It really only in passing. My sister watched it, so that's where I would just pick up on, the occasional scene or episode. But definitely that's probably been, like 15 years at this point, if
Yeah.
not more.
I didn't realize how old it was until you put the date
Yeah.
there.
I mean,
That's
it started
crazy.
in 1998, so that's
Dang.
23 years ago.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
How many seasons are there?
8.
8.
Yes. So, what you got at number 3, Nick?
At number 3, I had a hard time building a top 3. I kind of wish we did a top 5, but it would have been just like 2 more easier. But and usually when I have to pick like that, I usually go with kind of like a theme I can't deny. So this one ranks in at number 3 for me because I just can't deny it a spot, and that would be South Park as my number 3. And South Park, we all know South Park. It's been around for eternity. It's not The Simpsons, but it's up there.
Close enough.
Yeah, close enough. And I feel like my brain often just lives in satirical pop culture references anyways. So South Park might as well be history to me because that's just how I remember things. To me, that's the better way of digesting, the world and everything about it. So I always try to catch the latest season. Usually I feel like I'm 6 months behind on that because anymore, I don't know when that stuff releases. It seems kind of sporadic. But that one's just too much of a heavy hitter for me to deny it a spot at my top 3.
Yeah, that one actually made my honorable mentions.
Nice.
It's just, there's so many classic.
Right. I mean, a show about pop culture satire itself is pop culture.
Yeah.
And yeah, too many classic episodes. They just really do a good job at capturing just big moments in time. Even if they are a little late, it's usually like that. Think back a couple months and you're like, oh, wow. But other times I feel like they're like right on top of it as things kind of unfold.
Yeah.
And I'm a fan of.
I mean, they haven't. I was just gonna say they haven't quite reached Simpsons status where they're predicting the future yet.
No,
but.
No, I don't think they intend to. They're definitely a more of a reflective show on what's going on. But yeah, that's just a big one for me. And I've watched it. I watched it far before I probably should have.
Same.
So lots of just like, a little bit of nostalgia there for the older ones. And plus just the art style of it is fun. And going back and watching like the first season is insane compared to what it looks like now.
Yeah, it started out a little rough, but I mean, even though the art style lends itself to being, it's not like state of the art, like cutting edge animation, but it definitely has improved over time. Looks a lot cleaner and crispier. Right. But what are some of your favorite episodes?
Obviously like the Warcraft one, just a staple there. If you piece together, I think it's season 16, don't quote me on this, but basically stitch together all the PC principle parts. That was I just love that show came out with that level of a character, that late in the game for itself. Like to me, it really kind of resurged its relevance with that season and just like PC principle and tackling that whole phenomenon when that was happening.
Yeah.
I missed the trope of Kenny dying every episode. They kind of retired that. There's only so many ways Kenny can die.
That That was a great trope, but I'm also glad that they kind of put that away because it, got old after a while.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, you have to. You can't forget about Imagination Land. That was a great.
Right.
What was it? I think a 3-parter.
Yeah, and that's what I was just thinking about. It's hard to pin down an episode. I more so think of arcs in that show or themes that they really just nail on the head.
Yeah. Can't forget about the Scientology one.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That one is amazing.
Snooki,
From Jersey Shore. Okay. So this is our reminiscing on our favorite episode of South Park segment of the show. But the one where I believe it was Stan goes vegan or vegetarian, and he like locks himself in because he finds out what veal is made out of.
Yes.
So he like locks himself in the barn or something and starts growing all these sores all over.
Yeah.
Which I cannot say what said sores were actually, but you'll have to go watch it.
Yeah, go dig up that episode.
Oh,
Mr. Hanky.
We watched that show. That was the very first show that we ever started watching when we were dating. And I remember thinking my mom would kill me if she knew I was watching this. It was like mind blowing to the.
How did that go? Was Mike just like, hey, let's watch the show that I like?
I had like the first 10 seasons burned for me on like DVDs or whatever, and I was like, hey, check out this giant stack of.
Yeah. He wanted me always like check out my stack of South Park.
That's right. A question. Oh, I was just gonna say too before we move on, unless do either of you guys have anything else to say about South Park here?
I don't think so. It's just a stone cold classic.
Yeah, and like as long as the world keeps being as ridiculous as it is, like they're never gonna run out of material. This show is gonna live on forever.
Yeah, and I don't know, like sometimes it's I feel like when it was obviously things have gotten for some reason more weirder and more crazy and easier for them to write, but I can't tell if it's lost a little bit of its punch because they're kind of like satiring an already outrageous world versus like 20 years ago, they're satiring like George Bush, which in hindsight wasn't that crazy, but at the time it was. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just weird how with times that show has had its ups and downs.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Maybe we're just living live action South Park right now.
That's okay. I mean, that means Canadians. Their jaws are disconnected from their face.
Where Ike dates his kindergarten teacher or whatever. All right, moving on. So Bekah, it's your turn here.
You know how you told me I was only allowed to pick 3?
Well,
so here's my thought on this. Okay, so as I researched more of what shows, I watch a lot of sitcoms. It's pretty much all I ever watch because I like it as background noise. Which I know you don't want to hear that because that probably makes you cringe because of how in depth you watch a show and how much research, and I'm just have it on for background music.
But do you watch these shows like 5 times?
Sometimes,
because they're in the background. So over a course of 5 listens, you absorb it all.
I can focus because I'm a mom, so I have to listen to like 17 voices every day, anyways. So, I have my old ones that are classic favorites to me, but I also have my newer shows that are like, my number 3 pick isn't like a newer show.
All right,
both of them. Okay.
What you got?
So for my older classic, which I think the show just recently ended, is The Goldbergs, which I don't know if you ever watched that with me much, but
I've never heard of that.
So funny. It takes place in the 80s, I believe.
Yeah.
And
it's on Fox, I think.
Yes, it's absolutely hilarious. I mean, I wasn't born during that time in the zone, so I'm like piecing it down, like, that's what it was like, I'm sure. And then for my more current day humor that I enjoy would be Parks and Rec, which Mike and I binged that entire season right after our oldest was born. I remember we'd always get ice cream and we'd just like watch an entire season in one night, and it was glorious. It's a great show.
Yes, that one is on my honorable mentions as well.
I imagined it would be. It's a classic for us.
Yeah, and I left it off because I knew that you would pick it in some fashion.
It's true.
I contemplated doing this style of picking where you pick an old and a new, but then I was going down a rabbit hole, so I just scrapped that idea. But I'm glad that you did it.
Yeah, hey, the rule here is there aren't really rules. We make rules, but then we never follow them, so it's okay.
We just make endless exceptions. This is my number 3 pick, but
yeah, exactly. And
4 hours later.
Well, that's not even a joke.
I know, that's what I said.
If you listen to any of our list episodes, we always have about 20 honorable mentions because we suck at making lists.
It's like picking your favorite child.
But yeah, the Goldbergs, our chief moderator, Mr. Ryan.
Yes, he does love
AKA
that show.
Fortress Tiberius on Discord. Big fan of the Goldbergs.
Yeah, we've talked about that before, me and him.
Yeah. And so like I said at the beginning, I don't typically watch sitcoms very often, but the few episodes of this I've seen are like moments I've walked in while she's watching it. Like, it's pretty funny. It's a pretty funny show.
They're just like overly dramatic, I feel like, and like over the top, which is something that you generally steer away from with shows. But it works for this show just because they're just so extra.
Yeah. Plus, if you were an 80s child, nostalgia through the roof. They do a lot of cool things. But yeah.
Oh, that looks funny. I just looked it up.
Have you ever seen Parks and Rec, Nick?
No, I watched one episode of it, and then it's a mountain that I need to climb, but
it's worth it.
I feel like it was one of those shows we definitely had to get past a couple episodes.
Yeah, the first few episodes are not that strong.
Is that all sitcoms though? There's just like some weird setup they have to get through where it's like, hey, here's all the characters, now it's funny.
Yeah. Yeah, but Parks and Rec is really like should be on my list because it's hilarious. It's so funny. And I mean, you have Ron Swanson, you have Andy? No.
You're thinking of him from a different show.
Wrong sitcom. Who's Chris Pratt? What's his character's name?
I think it's Andy and April, isn't it?
We love this show, but we don't know any of the characters' names.
Yeah.
It was like 6
years
ago.
You got April, by oh shoot, you've cursed me, Bekah. Oh no, what's her name? She's a hilarious actress.
I feel like I should have made a list of sitcoms I intend to watch. This is definitely on that list.
Should be added.
It is a good one.
Amy Poehler is hilarious. Aziz Ansari's in there, and he's hilarious. Chris Pratt, like we said.
Was this Amy's first show after SNL? Or
I feel like it probably was.
Okay. Or maybe or whatever. I'm not sure about the timing on that.
Yeah. But I mean, it's basically The Office, but in the local government Parks and Recreation department. And it's just goofy and hilarious.
It's a good show for sure. I think you just like it the most because you relate to Ron Swanson in so many ways, which is like so sad because Ron is just such a grumpy person, and Mike's not grump. Well, he just has a lot of the same qualities as Ron Swanson.
Yeah, it happens.
It's true.
That should definitely be moved up to the top of your watch list.
I think
it's a good one to watch with Aaron if you guys need a show.
Okay. We always have a hard time starting them just because of the first 3 episodes. It just has to hit. There's there's like one tonight we'll talk about. I am 100% positive that it took us 2 tries to get into it, and the second time it just clicked. And then there's like numerous ones that we've tried, and it just wasn't hitting yet. So
yeah. It also has Rob Lowe plays a hilarious character.
Oh yeah.
And then of course,
You're the worst show boy ever.
who plays Ann Perkins? I wasn't prepared to talk about Parks and Rec. It was on my honorable mention.
I'm really,
Rashida Jones.
I'm really surprised it didn't make your list.
Yeah. Well, I did it.
Because you thought I was going to pick it, yeah.
But since I thought you were going to pick it, I should have actually researched it because I figured you probably also wouldn't research.
I told you
next time.
He's like, "Are you prepared?" I'm like, "I'm just winging it."
It's life with Nick.
That's me.
Yes, the virtual fist bump.
Yes.
But yeah, not bad picks. Hard to argue. Coming in for my number 2 choice. This one is often forgot about, but it shouldn't be. We got Scrubs coming in at number 2. This, I think, is one of the first sitcoms that I really got into. Like, not just watched with my family or whatever, but actually got invested in.
Right.
This ran from 2001 to 2010, had 9 seasons, scored 8.3 on IMDb and an 85% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is pretty good. This one, like all the other ones, just has an absolute bomb cast. You got Zach Braff as JD, Sarah Chalk as Elliot, Donald Faison as, probably screwed that up, but he plays Turk. And fun fact here with Donald, he voices a character in the animated Star Wars series Resistance. Neil Flynn, who plays the janitor, which is an absolutely hysterical character. And then John C. McGinley plays Dr. Cox, Dr. Perry Cox, one of my favorite characters in all of TV. Which my old boss actually is, since we just talked about Parks and Rec, and I just brought up Dr. Cox here. My old boss, Joe Grotz, if you're listening, Joe, I think I've told you this to your face, but you are like the perfect combination of Ron Swanson and Dr. Perry Cox from Scrubs. Like,
that lines up
100%. If you could combine those two to make one human, it would be Joe Grotz.
Be an epic human.
That's hilarious.
He is an epic man, that's for sure. But
your idol.
My idol. I did actually dress up as him once for Halloween at work. I shaved.
Don't remind me.
Shaved all my facial hair and my head, and then wore his typical casual Friday outfit, and it was hysterical. But it backfired because he typically wouldn't dress up for Halloween, so the goal was to just go and look exactly like him.
Yeah.
But this was the first, one of the first Halloween since I had worked here that he actually dressed up for Halloween. So I was like, really, Joe?
Screwed you over there.
Yeah. But this show does an incredible job at combining, the crazy comedic antics with some pretty serious and dramatic moments that make you feel things and have feels. But that's probably my favorite part of Scrubs and why I think it's such a great sitcom, and kind of sets it aside from any other sitcom that I had watched except for my number 1 pick, which we'll talk about more later. But you combine that with, the relationships here between Dr. Cox and JD, which is just a powerful relationship in and of itself, where, Dr. Cox kind of relentless, or I don't know, he's kind of not wanting to really like take JD under his wing, but then they actually like form this bond and this like friendship, and I don't know. It's just it was really cool to watch, and just it had a lot of powerful moments, but also a lot of like really hysterical moments. As I was researching this, some people say that this was one of the first sitcoms to break away from the traditional like sitcom trope of a laugh track and not being a single camera shot type show, which is cool because unlike those older sitcoms and the more like run-of-the-mill ones, this one kind of required character development and some like actual good writing instead of relying on laugh tracks to tell you, oh hey, this is the funny part, you should laugh. On top of that, it uses a lot of really cool music like throughout the episodes, and again, like that 70s show, the opener to Scrubs is great. That Superman song is a really, really great song. Actually ended up on one of my dad's playlists on his iPad or whatever. But it's just an iconic open to the show. And they actually had a really funny, like almost South Park type Kenny dying every episode trope where Zach Braff's character would somehow like slip or fall or trip over something, which is kind of goofy, but it just added to the already kind of slapstick style humor that they use in the show. And then another thing I found while I was researching Scrubs is Zach and Donald, who played JD and Turk. They're like best friends, roommates, work at the same hospital together or whatever. They actually started a podcast in early 2020 called Fake Doctors, Real Friends, where they went and rewatched every episode and then like gave commentary and like behind the scenes.
That's cool
stuff about every episode, which is a pretty cool concept.
Did it all 9 seasons?
I don't know. I would assume, but I kind of want to go check it out.
Yeah.
Because that would be pretty fun to listen to or watch, or I don't know how that would work. Like, do you need to watch that like Scrubs along with listening to the podcast? Is it like the director's commentary on DVDs or something, where they're just talking over the movie as it's playing? But yeah, I'm curious to kind of give that a listen because I bet there's some cool stories and behind the scenes stuff that would come out of that. Did either of you guys watch Scrubs?
That was another show that we watched when we first started dating too. I feel like Mike was like, wait, you haven't watched anything? Hold please. Let me go get a binder of DVDs and flip through.
And it's still happening.
Yes.
Never stops.
I watched Scrubs is a weird one for me because I think it would have been on my list. It's definitely on my honorable mentions, but Scrubs I think it was primarily on when I was maybe like a preteen or teenager. So it was always it was background. It was a background show for me. And I'm familiar a lot with it and the characters and its style, but like most of like the story is lost on me. So I think for me to place it, in a top 3 where it maybe should be, I would need to rewatch it, to really kind of digest it.
Yeah. That's the thing with our list or my list here is like that 70s show and Scrubs I haven't watched really since the initial watch. So it's been a while, besides the attempted rewatch of that 70s show. But based off of memory, like I remember watching Scrubs a ton and having a lot of fun. One of my old high school friends, Dave, which if you're listening, what's up? He actually left a really cool review of us on Facebook, so thank you.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we kind of watched this together, so fun memories there. One other fun little tidbit I found is some people also say that it's one of the most accurate medical shows. They actually had a lot of medical experts like help advise them in, writing the medical side of the show, which is kind of cool.
Probably helps that it's not primarily a medical drama, which they all tend to be, right? Everything in the hospitals are their dramas. So to dramatize it up, they have to like skew accuracy, I'm sure, a lot. So where this is probably focusing on, hey, we're a funny show, but we're going to nail it on the head for the medical accuracy. So that makes sense.
To add on to that, the characters like JD and Turk, and I'm sure some of the other like main characters are actually named after some of the experts that help advise them, which I thought was kind of cool.
That is cool.
The real JD makes a cameo in one of the final episodes where he's like just plays a random doctor in the hospital, and he says like, I think like bye or adios or something to JD, which is kind of funny. But yeah, I found that pretty interesting. But again, if this is a show that you missed out on because it's a little bit older, I recommend throwing it on. I'm sure it holds up. I actually now kind of want to go back and rewatch it. But I don't know. Maybe that's something we can do.
Yeah, because I feel like I never got into the storyline as much as you did. You always have talked it up like that. You always been like, it's such an emotional, like roller coaster.
It makes me feel.
Yeah.
What are these things?
Yes.
But no, I think that's something that obviously sets it apart, because most comedies are just trying to make you laugh or act goofy, or TV in general just follows a formula. And when you find shows like Scrubs that do cool like genre blending things, or something that's a little bit outside of the realm of what it's classified as, usually catches my attention because it's different and brings something new to the table. And unfortunately, I watch a lot of shows and movies, so a lot of the same, isn't a good thing in my opinion. But this show, like I said before, is really, really funny, but also can get emotional and like hit the dramatic parts like really well and do them well. So yeah, I don't know. That's my number 2.
Good pick.
What you got for us, Nick?
Number 2. This is a recent watch, a little less of a recent release, though it's not entirely too old, but I'm going to go with Community for my number 2 pick. I don't know if it was Dan Harmon's first, but definitely I feel like that's the early days of Dan Harmon, perhaps. Maybe I should know more about Dan Harmon before I talk to it. But I have like maybe 4 episodes left in the last season. I was shooting to have it done by this episode, but just couldn't do it. I've been distracted by other shows on and off. But this show, I just feel like this, one of the things about sitcom that I think I like to find is, can I just flip on any episode and watch it and be entertained, not feel lost and want to turn it off? I feel like this is that one of those shows, because the way they structure it, I feel like it's very, very unique in the way it's structured. It almost could have a laugh track the way it is kind of set up with a single camera esque. So I feel like it's a little bit of a nod back to that kind of style, but it isn't at the same time. Where you would think it would lean into being a dramedy, I don't think it is at all. Would be characterized as that, because it's not. Like, every episode is independent of itself. There is story arcs to it, but it's definitely not drama, at least in my perspective. And they do a lot of very Dan Harmon-esque kind of like mind-bendy things, or, the bridging of the fourth wall, and a lot of the different, they like to parody themes. So it's almost like circling around and poking fun at itself and its genre. Mm-hmm. So I just feel like it's super unique. It's nothing at all what I expected. I just kind of stumbled into it too. You know, I watched like the first 3 episodes, and all of a sudden I was like, it's really picking up. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna hold off my comments.
Okay.
For reasons now known.
Dang. Busted.
Well,
You have any input?
I mean, that was gonna be my number 2, Nick. Jeez.
Well, that's great because it's your turn now.
We can just talk about Community for a half hour.
I could live with that. That show is so good. We just finished it like what, maybe a month ago, and I feel like there's a void in my heart now.
No,
It's over. And
I've been putting it off for that reason.
Same. Well,
what do you mean same?
Yeah.
Every night we're like. We watched like 2.5 hours worth of Community, which they're 20-minute episodes, so that's like like 6 episodes or
it's
something.
the whole season almost.
Yeah. He like
half of one.
Slow down on shows all the time. Like I'd be like, "Can we watch more?" He's like, "No, we have to save it." He's such a dad.
Yeah, well, it's like because we don't typically agree on stuff to watch very often, so when we finally find something. She wants to watch it in like 2 days. And I'm like, okay, well, we're not going to have anything to watch together.
True. And this is another show, actually. Man, me and Ryan Ford have a lot in common. Look at he's trying to get me to watch the show. Like, I think it was before we even had kids. He was like, you guys should watch Community. And I was like, I tried. It was awful. I didn't like it. Because I just didn't like it at that time. Like, probably like 6 or 7 years ago. It just wasn't the humor that I was expecting or was used to, I guess. But I don't know, just every episode we were just dying laughing, I feel like.
You know, you make an interesting point about, you know, it didn't click 6 or 7 years ago when it was probably on the air. And it might have aged very well because it's the things that are funny about it. Some of the funniest stuff are kind of out of taste for what they would put on a new show today.
That's
looking at you, Pierce.
That is so true. Very accurate.
Yeah.
And I mean, that show either, you know, it started and ended like right in the transition period, you know, before that became kind of taboo, a lot of that stuff. And the way they approach it was just lighthearted, but also serious. I mean, they took it seriously when they, you know, they make those jumps because Pierce will say something and then the group would openly acknowledge it of like, yes, that is racist, Pierce, or sexist, or whatever it might be. But it was still funny the way like Pierce went about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So since we're talking about it, my number 1 pick is Community. So we'll just keep the train rolling because I have questions to ask you guys. So I guess I'll go through my reasons and then I'll ask you my questions. So the cast. I mean, I did this for my other 2 picks, but again, like Joel McHale as Jeff Winger, Gillian Jacobs as Britta. I mean, Britta's okay.
I liked her in the beginning.
Yeah. She's the worst.
She's literally the worst.
Yes.
She became the worst, though. She was such a big part of that whole thing kicking off, but then somewhere she just kind of drifted into being very mediocre.
She Britted herself.
Yeah, she got Britted.
There were so many times I was like, can they just kill her off now? Like they everyone else.
Danny Pudi. Wow, that's I butcher names so much. But Abed, probably, you know, one of the best characters on the show. You got Yvette Nicole Brown as Shirley, Allison Brie as Annie. My favorite person in the entire world, Donald Glover as Troy. Ken Jeong as Chang, and Chevy Chase as Pierce, and the sleeper of the entire show, Jim Rash as Dean Pelton. One of the funniest characters on the show. And fun fact, we're just gonna subtitle this episode top 3 favorite communities and Mike's fun facts. Because I've had fun facts for every show.
You do this in real life though with things too.
I do.
Actually, I do it too, so I can't talk.
Fun fact.
Yes.
We're so fun over here.
Jim Rash also voices a character in the animated Star Wars show Resistance.
Wow.
He joins, our buddy Turk from Scrubs as a voice actor in Star Wars.
More to love.
But like you alluded to in your little points about Community, Dan Harmon. Like we could just say Dan Harmon and then end, and then everyone would know that like the show's amazing because Dan Harmon is like some crazy, brilliant Rain Man when it comes to like TV shows.
Do you follow him on Instagram?
No, but I should.
You should. They just go back through his stuff. It is bizarre.
Oh yeah, we'll get Dan. Yeah, hey Dan, I know you're not doing anything. You got to come on the Show Boys podcast.
Let's send him fan mail.
But for real, Dan, if you're listening to this, please come on Show Boys podcast. We love you. Yeah, one of my favorite things is how meta this show is, and how it just makes fun of all the typical show and movie tropes. I mean, they don't hide it, obviously. Like they put it right
is the
out. Trope. Thank you, Abed. You are,
he's the anchor to that whole thing
that we all need to understand Community. But yeah, like I told Bekah while we were watching it, it's basically live action Rick and Morty if they went to community college instead of traveled the universe for hijinks. But I mean, there's a lot of parallels between community college and Rick and Morty. Cynical in nature, kind of. What's the word for the type of people who just don't think anything matters? Like everything is. There's no point to anything. There's like a word for that.
I think that's cynical.
No, I think cynical is like crazy.
No.
There's another word.
Google it. Google cynical right now.
My keyboard's so clickety clackety. You do it while I'm talking. But like, I'm going to kind of argue Nick's point here with the drama aspect. I mean, this show is like 90% comedy and ridiculous insanity, but they do a good job occasionally sprinkling in some serious and dramatic moments, usually revolving around the relationships of a couple of the people of the group at a time. You said you only have like 4 episodes left?
Yeah.
Okay. So like the episode where they do the lava floor or whatever, when Troy's getting ready, spoiler alert for a show that's, almost 10 years old. But when Troy's getting ready to leave to go sail around the world to earn his inheritance from Pierce, that moment there, like at the end when, Abed's trying to deal with losing his best friend and like only friend, was actually like really touching. And
you were pretty sad about it.
I was sad.
Is that how you felt if like Nick decided to go travel the world? Probably heartbroken. Me.
That's unfortunate.
Go on. Earn that bag. That's what I say.
Stay here. Stay put.
I mean, no, that show hits a lot of very serious notes, right? Like you said with Scrubs, Community does a good job at bringing it in, after all of the crazy antics and just ridiculousness. That's the other thing about the first 3 episodes. You're really like, this is literally about a study group at community college, and then it no longer is all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, one of my favorite elements of that show is the relationship arcs between like Jeff and the girls, or the girls and the other guys there, just how that all kind of sprawls.
And Troy and Abed, they should just have their own spinoff.
Right.
Troy and Abed in the morning.
The bromance is great there. Great. One of the greatest bromances right there.
Yeah. But a sleeper relationship on the show that actually had a cool development is actually Pierce and Troy, for that little bit when Troy goes and lives with him. And you kind of like start to sympathize with Pierce a little bit and kind of understand why he is the way he is. But I mean, that's a great point. There's a lot of cool things they do with all the different relationships in that show, whether it's like romantic in nature or just, friendship relationship or whatever. But like you said, the themed parody type episodes were epic and amazing. But I mean, really, you only need to watch one of those, and well, I guess it's more than one, but one theme, and that is paintball.
Multiple times.
Yes, I think there's like 3 or 4 paintball episodes, but they're all amazing so much.
They're pretty good.
But another thing, back to what you were saying about the relationships and stuff, I kind of like what they did with Jeff, kind of taking him from the narcissistic, like,
right,
big shot, didn't care about anyone, was just there to,
get his degree.
Slide his way through community college. But like, he ends up being one of the most caring, people on the show.
John Oliver.
Yeah.
Little stint. He was in there a little bit.
And they're sprinkled in.
Yeah.
John Oliver. But speaking of that, they have a lot of great cameos.
Yes.
Nathan Fillion is in there. Kumail Nanjiani is in there a few times. There's so many, but for some reason those two popped up because we were literally talking about paintball and they were in a paintball episode, and that's just John Goodman.
I mean he's a recurring character for a little bit there. But
the air conditioning school, that was such a funny.
That's a great arc, but also the supporting characters, right? Whether it's Leonard in the halls, it's just like, shut up, Leonard. Or Pop, or all that. Like, it's just great.
Pop.
Yeah.
Great show. Sad it's over.
That's right. We got to start our chip review vlog like we talked about last week, I think, or a couple weeks ago. Following our boy Leonard's footsteps.
Oh.
I love
chip review.
Oh my gosh, dude.
What?
Okay, so the Russo brothers were executive producers on this show, and we kind of briefly mentioned Marvel in the beginning, but they went on to be a large part, play a large role in the MCU with some of the Captain America movies, some of the Avengers movies. Every episode of Community had a post-credit or like during credit scene. Do you think that is where the MCU got their idea for the post-credit scene?
I just like when you're nodding your head like you feel like you discovered something huge right now.
Now you're thinking.
Because we all know post-credit scenes did not exist before Marvel or Community. So there's no way they would have gotten that inspiration from anywhere else.
Yes, there's alone. And they got it from Community.
Yes. But that
Troy
actually...
Nobbit in the morning.
That's right. The best. I'm telling you, they need to have their own morning show. It'd be great. Even if it was just a live stream podcast like this. Donald Glover's too busy, though.
I was like, it might be a little... I don't even know what Abed does, or like, if he's still acting.
He's in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah. Still waiting on that movie, 6 seasons in a movie. But speaking of the Russo brothers and the MCU, another fun fact for you guys. A lot of the characters from Community and a lot of the cameos that appeared in Community played, small roles in Marvel movies. So Abed was a S.H.I.E.L.D. communications officer in Captain America: The Winter Soldier, like Nick just mentioned. Donald Glover was Aaron Davis, a.k.a. the Prowler in Spider-Man: Homecoming. Yvette Nicole Brown was Phyllis Jenkins in Avengers: Endgame. Ken Jeong was a security guard in Avengers: Endgame. Jim Rash, old Dean Pelton, he was an MIT liaison in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. And there were a ton of the actors and actresses who made cameos that had roles in the MCU, and I didn't want to list all of them out because they weren't like regular cast members, but pretty funny, the connections here. The Russo brothers bringing some of their people from Community over into the MCU, which is kind of cool.
Did Jeff Winger, did he do anything else? Like, I don't think I've seen him in anything since Community. Or maybe I'm not watching the right stuff.
I think he hosted The Soup on the entertainment channel.
Never heard
E.
of it.
I think that's what he did.
What a weird role after being like the star of a show.
No, I think he did that before Community. And then, not to be forgotten, he did an amazing after show of The Tiger King. I think it was like an hour long.
Oh,
we watched it.
Yeah, I didn't know it was that.
He interviewed some of the people who were in Tiger King. I think it was like an hour long or 45-minute long thing on Netflix after Tiger King came out.
I didn't realize that was him until now. That's weird that you remembered that.
I remember everything that's not important.
Yeah, it's true. You guys are talking about actors' names, and I'm like, I don't know any of them. But if we talk about real people that we hang out with and know in real life, Mike's like, who?
No idea who that is.
How do we know them again? Actually, are you done talking about Community?
Yeah.
Because I want to name another show, which made me think of this.
Okay, well, first, before we go on, what's your favorite episode?
Oh, I don't know. I don't remember those things. I have to remember things like our kids' info.
What's your favorite episode, Nick?
Sorry, babe. Let you down. You put them on the spot. Nice to think about.
I'll rattle a few off. Obviously, the paintball ones. I love the episode with the alternate timelines where they're all playing Yahtzee.
Okay. No, I got a favorite episode.
That drove me nuts.
What? It's
that one was amazing.
No.
When they go to Pierce's mansion and have to play the video game.
And
they're all
oh man, what's his name? Moff Gideon.
With Moff Gideon.
Brothers.
Shoot, what's his character's name from Breaking Bad? I can't remember the actor's name either. Great actor.
No, but yeah, that's probably one of the most standout episodes. Also, fun fact, that is the inspiration for our pixel avatars in our Discord.
Hey, nice.
I see that.
I mean,
that's awesome.
That's great that's what inspired the pixel avatar.
I literally sent Bianca the lineup of all them pixelated. I was like, nice. Something like this.
That's awesome. Yes.
Bianca coming through.
She did a really good job.
I love what what she's done with the pixel avatars and all the things that she's helped us out with. Thank you, OG BB8.
Join the Discord, everyone.
Bianca. Yes, join our Discord. But
shameless plug.
Yes. We have a lot of those on this show. But it's our show, so we can do whatever we want. But yeah, the alternate timeline episode's hilarious.
Yes. Yeah, that whole little arc, because that one's kind of like meta dripped in there, because I feel like they addressed that multiple times, but then finally what's it called? The
evil Abed comes.
Evil Abed from the dark
timeline.
Yeah, the darkest timeline. The episode where they establish that there are alternate timelines. Is that the one you're thinking of, or when they literally come and have a shootout?
No, that episode's hilarious. But the one where they're playing Yahtzee and the pizza guy comes and they roll the dice to see who will go get it.
Yep.
I love it because I knew it would probably drive people crazy that 70% of the episode is repeating that opening thing of them rolling the dice and explaining it. But I loved it. It was so funny.
Good meme from that episode.
Exactly. One of the greatest gifts of all time. Just Troy coming back into the apartment on fire.
I told Mike, I said, that episode reminds me of why I hate football. Because it's stop and go. Like, let's just move on to the next scene already. And I was like, this is exactly like football. It's lame. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, just play the game.
Just take the ball to the end of the field so we can move on.
Exactly.
Another great episode is the Christmas claymation one where they go inside Abed's.
What's wrong with you?
Abed's feelings. That's another one of those ones that's pretty funny and
that one's cool,
out of the box, but also really emotional because it's them trying to help Abed cope with being alone on Christmas for the first time, right?
Yeah. The trampoline episode. For some reason, I like that one.
That one was hilarious.
Yes. It's the really weird ones that I don't like, but Mike loves them.
Yeah, because it's not typical TV.
You probably like musical episodes too, don't you? When shows have like a musical in them.
I mean,
Can't stand those.
they did
have one.
and it was okay. But I'm thinking of my new favorite Christmas movie.
We're not going to talk about that.
Klaus.
Anna and the Apocalypse.
I was thinking of
A
that.
Christmas musical zom-com.
You can talk about that in 10 months.
Yes. But yeah, there's so many great episodes of Community. But my last one I want to bring up, and I'm not going to talk any details about it because it's the last episode of the series.
Spoiler.
I'm sure. I'm not even gonna.
Yeah, just scratch that whole idea.
It's a really great episode.
It better be.
One of my favorites.
Never mind.
Don't talk about
I
it.
was just gonna say I didn't feel like it was that great, but I
Don't talk about it.
No, I just don't like things.
No, nothing else.
I just don't like endings. That's what it is.
Okay.
I just get too emotional with those kind of things.
What are your top 3 least favorite endings of a sitcom?
When they end, all of them.
All of them.
I'm like you. I have to watch a show that I know has been out for many years. Well, most of the time. And I have to know that there is like there's many episodes that I can binge at once. And I know that like that I have to expect that this is the end. Like Grey's Anatomy is so confusing to me because I'm like, it's never ending.
And it's just an awful show.
It has gotten bad, I will say.
I'm not gonna lie. How many seasons?
We watched probably 9 before we realized that.
I've watched a lot of Grey's Anatomy.
It's true.
I think you just switch to New Amsterdam if you need for that medical fix. I think that's the good one these days.
Yeah. But I do.
So I'm very confused about the order right now. So that was my number 2 pick. Becca's number 2 pick. Oh wait, no,
I have another number.
That was
2.
your number 2.
Okay.
My number 2
Becca's-
current.
Becca's half of Becca's number 2, and
And
my
then your number.
1.
Okay.
You just knocked it
We
all out
all
at once.
watched
We
it at
just-
the same
yeah.
time.
Okay.
What's your second?
Okay, I don't know if you're gonna remember this or not. We watched this.
Sure, I will.
True. We watched this so long ago, and you didn't even watch every episode with me, but it was Raising Hope. Do you remember that show? It was so funny. So it's like a dysfunctional family, would you say? Like the mom and dad are like they got pregnant when they were teens.
They have the
And-
crazy grandma.
Yeah, and they never grew up, and like they never grew up, but their son did. Like he was just more mature than them. But they had this crazy grandma. I think it was like Mama or something. I don't know. But that show, I will always think about it in my head and just like laugh at certain episodes. And I was like, where can I even watch that show now? I couldn't find it well, it's probably out there somewhere. I just don't have that streaming site. But do you remember that one? You liked that, didn't you?
I don't remember too many like specifics about it.
Yeah.
But I do remember it being pretty funny.
It actually popped up on like the top shows when I Googled. And
Yeah,
I was like,
it was
I didn't
on.
know
That's
that.
important.
It was on a few of it.
It was a great. So it probably is available to watch. I just didn't
it's
research
probably
it
on
more.
one of the streaming services.
I would watch that one again. We should add that one in.
Hulu.
It's funny.
It's on Hulu.
Is it?
Yep. With the subscription. It's a 96 on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's really good.
That is really good. Like I feel like, I watched it with one of our youth group students from church at the time. I think she was like 14. That was probably bad on my part to let her watch that show. Alana.
Done.
But like every Sunday we would binge that like whole show. I loved it. It was a great show. We should watch it.
We do what we can to sculpt the minds of our youth with great television and film. You know. But
Maybe.
yeah, what I remember watching that show, it was pretty funny, but I didn't watch all of it.
No. I think you watched bits and pieces of it, but
Yeah.
when I saw it, I was like, "Oh my gosh!" It was a tie between one for me because I loved it that much. So
I
there
like
it
how
is.
you're like, here's my new pick, Community, and here's my old pick, Raising Hope. Which
They're both old, I know, but in my
is not
mind,
old. They're like 10, like do you still have Raising Hope up? Like, when did that come up? Because I feel like these were
it was
2010.
Yeah, that's
old.
I mean, it's not like
that's 12 years.
90s old.
Wait, what is the year?
Community was 2009.
So,
yeah, I guess my perception of time is warped too, because
you're old.
it's hard for me to think that 2010 is 11 years ago.
I know, that was like graduated. That's weird.
Dun dun.
Also, in my head, like I watched that I think 10 years ago. I watched it towards the end of it, and then Community we just finished, so that's why it's new to me in my mind of like my newer things I liked.
That's fair.
So, okay.
So I already did my number one. Nick, we're on to your number one.
I wonder if we have the same.
No.
You're not gonna Dad Feels Me, are you? Which sounds really weird, but if you like our favorite film franchises, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Oh, God. Don't. So no, we don't have the same number one. We probably almost did, but I think me guessing, maybe I'm right. I didn't put this in my top three, but anyways, we'll get to that. My number one, another Dan Harmon special. I'm just gonna roll with Rick and Morty.
Oh, come on, Nick.
What?
I thought better of you.
I'm actually surprised a certain show didn't make your list, which I'm not going to talk about in case it comes up on Bekah's list.
Okay.
And that's why I'm thinking that it was the same. That never mind. Just go. We're gonna dissect Nick's answers.
But yeah, I ended up going with Rick and Morty. One, because I wanted 2 animations on my top 3. Just because I like to go animated heavy on everything. I don't know, where Community's kind of like meta on the whole kind of realistic world issues amongst like a group of people at college or community college. This show to me is just kind of meta, but also isn't. And to me, the debate whether it is actually smarter than it appears to be is a great one. So I love how big it is, but also just kind of how small it brings everything down to. And it's kind of got that South Park thing too, where it is, cynical. Everything is just, Rick Sanchez doesn't trust anything or anybody. He's just like the epitome of one thing one way. And then there's Morty, who is his grandson, who is the opposite. And they address some pretty big life lessons in very ridiculous ways.
Yeah.
And also just laugh factor. Like I have laughed very, very hard at this show. And I think that's what same thing with South Park and Community. Like, what are the shows I laugh at? And I like die sometimes at Rick and Morty.
Rick and Morty is hysterical. But while you were talking, I Googled I finally remembered the word I was trying to think of.
Oh, okay.
So far.
Not cynical. It's nihilism.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Which is the rejection of all religious and moral principles and the belief that life is meaningless, which is exactly Rick Sanchez.
Yes.
But yeah, I just had to, it popped up in my brain while you're talking. So I had to Google it and make sure. And then to clear my name, I had to,
settle that word.
But yeah, I mean, Rick and Morty's great pick. It's on my honorable mentions, mainly because I haven't watched any of the new stuff. I think I've seen 2. What season was Pickle Rick? Was that 2 or 3?
I think that was 3.
Okay, then I've seen the first 3 seasons. I haven't watched 4, or if there's anything after 4. I know there's like 72 episode, like is the contract or whatever they signed when they started season 4, or something ridiculously long. But yeah, it's like if you filter South Park through the nihilistic point of view and just turn up the darkness and like messed up meter to like 12.
Yeah.
That's what Rick and Morty is. And it just leads to some of the most hysterical scenarios and like
that, and they take it obviously into space, and they just really extrapolate everything to another degree, right? Where we're talking about Rick powers his spaceship with a miniverse, and then that miniverse has someone like Rick that also created a miniverse to power, just like really stupid stuff that if you think about it hard enough, it starts to make a lot of sense, but then you come full circle and it's still ridiculous.
Yeah.
And also I think I just live in, that's just where my brain lives.
Yeah.
Is just in the most satirical realm of things. Like that's how I want to explain everything.
Right. Well, and that's the parallel between Rick and Morty and Community for me, is like the concepts that happen in Community are just absurd and like completely off the wall. And that there's no way that they're trying to make this in any way, shape, or form realistic. They just try to go over the top, just like Rick and Morty does. It's just in community college instead of space.
Yeah, but the messages that those arcs drive are still very much real and a thing. They just extrapolate it to like infinity. Even with Community, something happens at the beginning of the episode that's super simple, happens to everybody all the time, very common thing, and then they take it to this ridiculous place that falls in line with it. Whether it's a relationship problem or family issue or a personal thing that someone's dealing with. Morty, that's a lot of the things at the beginning of that show, and then eventually like they dive more into like Rick's personal issues.
I think I really enjoyed what I've seen of Rick and Morty like from the start, but when it really just went up to the next level was the Cronenberg
yes,
where Morty has to bury himself. That show's on another level.
yes that exact episode, because up until then it's the same tropes, but then they established this larger meta story that's going on where things are oddly interrelated. And that comes back that they reintroduce the Cronenbergs in later episode, and they make when Summer, they finally tell Summer he's just sitting on the couch watching TV.
So you don't watch this show, so
it's true, I don't.
This episode Morty is trying to like ask out his crush to like this dance or something, and he gets Rick to make a love potion, or either he asks Rick to do it or Rick just does it.
He asks Rick tells him he's stupid, and then finally Rick succumbs to it for what I forget why, but he gives in, he just makes it for him.
And like it mixes somehow with like an actual virus that's going around their school, like they have like the coughs or the sneezes or whatever, and then it mixes with this love potion, and they all like turn into these deformed like alien like dead people. Cronenbergs. Yeah, that's the only way to describe them. So basically
everyone falls in love with Morty. Everyone.
And he completely ruins the world. Like it's an apocalyptic event, and so they have to jump to another timeline, and when they do, Rick kills that timeline's Rick and Morty,
and they have to bury themselves in the backyard.
Morty's just mortified, which is that he just saw himself get killed in another timeline, and then he has to go bury his body in the backyard, and it's so funny and messed up and like really heavy, and like the whole time there's like this song playing, and Morty's just like
Morty's like a little kid a little bit, he's just like a teenager, and his world just got completely destroyed.
It's so funny. But that was the episode where I'm like, okay, this show is not holding anything back.
And then probably I mean, one of my favorite episodes, and it's the one like I just was dying the whole time, is the Purge episode, just because when Morty loses it at the end and just goes just full like Terminator on everything, and Rick's like, dude, you need to calm down. You need to, you need to address some things.
Yeah. Probably my personal favorite one is the Rick Lannis episode.
Yeah.
Where they go to like Morty Town and it's like a bad Morty cop and it's like, Morty's being Morty's. Such a great show. Good pick. I'm glad you mentioned it.
It's just such an extreme show from the little like episodes.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the point.
It's like I don't know. It's a real extreme, I feel like, and it's like I don't know, like when I watch it, I'm like, I don't get it. What? I don't know. It's just too extreme and too depth. And that's like going back to Community. Sometimes they do that with episodes. They go inside of an episode. Well, it makes sense. Same creator. But it's just like, why'd you do that? That's confusing.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's also only as deep as you let it be. Because if you look at Rick and Morty on the surface, like it's just a bonkers off the wall space adventure. But then if you choose to like look into it, there's a lot of deep, like a lot of depth and richness.
Hidden meaning.
Yes. Well, it's not really hidden, but
it's like randomized meaning, where it's like conveniently let's reference this other thing just to make everybody think something's going on here or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they take everyday situations that everyone can relate to and just beat them to death down this just rabbit hole of ridiculousness.
Yeah, and sometimes literally beat them to death.
Yeah.
I think that's like it. I don't know why I'm not a fan of Family Guy, because it's just like so extreme, and that show reminds me of that for some reason. Like
that shouldn't remind you of
I don't know.
Guy.
All the like even South Park, they're all very like
Family Guy and South Park are pretty similar in nature, but
yeah, I don't know. They're just so extreme. All that like maybe it's the whole animated thing for me.
Yeah,
I need
maybe
people.
I don't know, but my brain is just that's where my brain's at. That's what I'm always thinking about. Is and Aaron's sometimes like, who says that? I'm like, well,
this is why we get along so well.
Yeah, who says that? I say that.
Yeah,
true. It's true.
All right.
My odd observations of reality.
I mean,
hey, it works.
Yeah,
it's a creative form.
Yeah.
So, what's your number one pick, Beck?
Okay, so my quote unquote old one. I'm mad that I just looked at that, and I'm really mad that you did that.
That means I have a section on my notes of picks I bet Bekah will pick.
I feel like
that means I got some right.
You got a lot. I'm really mad. I feel like he just went to our my history of what I watched.
It's literally, we're married.
It's
I was
true.
gonna know all this.
He pays more attention than you think.
Yeah.
On unimportant
do we need
things,
to bring
like
up,
what shows you
do we need to bring up how Mike is very invested into The Bachelor right now?
That's a false.
Next week's episode.
I know more about that show also than I should right now.
Accusation.
Please tune in next week. He will put his bet on who he will pick.
Showboy's next companion series.
I'm here for it.
Anyways.
Okay. New Girl is definitely my.
Wow.
I love New Girl.
I knew it.
It's just like she's so innocent, and who she ends up, Nick Miller, is just like so opposite. And I think I like it because it reminds me of you and me. Complete opposites. Doesn't make any sense why they're together. And it's Mike and I. And it's just like, I don't know, she's just so sweet and happy, and he's just so bitter. I love you.
You relate to it on a very personal level.
And there's just so much humor in it. It's hilarious. Do you like that show? Would you admit that you enjoy watching that from time to time?
The few, again, this is one that I haven't sat down and watched, but the few instances that I've seen have been pretty funny.
Yes.
So New Girl is actually on a list of mine, a little sub list here, and it's called Aaron Picks That I Approve Of. And New Girl is an approved show there, and it's one I would like to rewatch with her because I think I've picked up on a lot more episodes than I think I have, but I think it's pretty funny because she'd be in the same room watching it, I'd be on the computer, and I would be like glancing over and just like caught watching it because it's pretty funny.
Yeah, all the dude characters in that show are like, I could never pick just one because they're all my favorites. They're so funny. But Mike already probably knows what I'm gonna pick for my ultimate number one in the entire. You want to just type it out right now and let everyone. What if it's wrong? No. Wait, did you type it?
It's not showing up on the screen, but
no, it's not at all. Try again. Okay, that's better. The Office, for obvious reasons, because it's a classic, and I'm still a little sensitive and heartbroken that it's off Netflix right now. But it will remain in my heart forever because, again, it's easy, funny humor, perfect for background too when you're doing multiple things and you catch those little lines that just resonate with you.
I'm so glad you picked The Office because I feel like we would lose viewers if The Office didn't make it into like someone's number one on this show.
Yeah.
We tailor our list to our viewers.
Oh, well, I'm here. I am.
That explains why we have no viewers.
Mike says I'm too predictable with pretty much everything in life. And he calls me a basic white girl all the time. So I am the viewers here. I can relate to them because I'm America. We all.
I am America.
Yeah. I mean, it's undeniable and hard to argue against The Office being one of the greatest sitcoms of all time.
It's true.
I watched a good amount of it back in the day. I never finished the series, and then when you started to watch it or rewatch it or whatever, I would watch a few episodes here or there with you, but I didn't sit down and watch the whole thing. But I mean, there are a lot of funny parts, but for some reason I don't desire to watch this show.
I know. I think you were more annoyed with some of the stuff because you didn't care for the humor as much, I felt like.
Yeah, I mean, maybe because it's just so overplayed.
Or obvious humor almost. It's not I think you the humor that you have to think into.
I like the humor because Parks and Rec is a clone of The Office, but I like Parks and Rec more than The Office. But I think it's just it's
like Star Wars. You dislike it because it's the biggest thing.
I'm an underdog kind of guy, so I always root for the underdog in sports. I think it's because of being a Northeast Ohio resident. All of our teams suck except the Browns. Yeah, we're finally good. But even in esports, I started liking underdog teams there. When it comes to movies or shows or music, I tend to not like what's popular.
Yeah.
I guess it's also a hidden hipster quality in me, which really makes me want to go lay in the street because I have general disdain for hipsters. So
you are the ultimate hipster.
Hipsters listening, I apologize, but that's how I feel. So I think that plays a part in why when Bekah was rewatching the show, I wasn't on board, but it's really funny and it's a great show. I mean,
it's an American classic.
Yeah.
I think it falls into the Scrubs category for me. I watched this when it was airing on TV and whatever time slot it was on. So it was always in the background and I'm familiar enough with it, but I couldn't land it on the list definitively just because I have not sat down and watched it like I think it deserves to be. So
it was one of those shows too that I feel like every single show I mentioned for my number one choice, I had to force myself. It sounds so sad. I had to force myself to watch more than one episode. So I was like, oh, this pilot is just awful.
Yeah. So. Well, with shows they have to find their footing, right? And these are all somewhat older shows, so
true.
And some of them, like Community, are ones that kind of break the mold. So maybe they're a little hesitant to like go all out and find themselves because they wanted to last, and like not scare viewers away. But yeah, Parks and Rec was like that for me.
Yeah.
Community was even like that for me. It took me like 3 episodes to not be annoyed by Jeff. I hated Jeff so much.
Dang.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's a common thing, unfortunately. Even with newer shows today, like a lot of people had a hard time getting into Ozark when it first came out. Yeah, I don't think that's an uncommon thing, and I don't think it's restricted to sitcoms either. I think it's just across the board.
True. It's got to set the bar high. I feel like it's because you don't know what you're getting into.
Yeah. So there you have it. Our top 3 picks.
+3.
Bekah's top 6 picks.
I could have gone
made to 12. We might as well went to 15.
No, we didn't.
No, 12. Math.
6.
It's okay.
We're working it down. You guys just need to stop having people on so then you guys can stay under the 10.
Well, no, when people aren't on, we go all out. We have like top 30 list.
That does not surprise me.
We actually talk about each one of our honorable mentions.
That's true.
You guys should be called the Chatty Boys instead.
Wow.
Change your name.
And yeah, thank you for coming on the show, Bekah, for your first and last appearance. But no, this is the time, now that we've made it through our picks, where we'll go through our honorable mentions. So, we still have to get through our listener picks that were submitted on our Discord, which we do every week. So another shameless plug. You can always, throw us your, suggestions, topics, favorites, whatever we're talking about on our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or during the live stream. Right now, you can always comment in, and we'll throw it up on the screen and talk about what you're wanting to have heard. Or probably the best and easiest way to stay in communication with us and just have lots of fun conversations would be joining our Discord. We're building a nice little community on there of fans of film and gaming, and we have all sorts of channels for all sorts of conversations. Everything you can think of, we have in there, and we just want to chat with you. Every week for our episode, I throw our topic up in one of our channels on Discord and ask for your feedback. So, some of you gave your submissions, so we'll get to those as soon as we go through our honorable mentions real quick. So, Bekah, since you kind of got to see how the show went, do you have honorable mentions?
Well,
that weren't on the list of shows that I thought you
basically wrote it for me.
Nice.
Let me see if you missed any though. Hold, please.
So we don't have to like really go in depth with these, but just rattle off the ones that.
Should I just read off of the list you made for me?
Yeah. And just maybe give a brief little like, this is why I liked this show. Okay.
The Good Place. I mean, that's what you put on the list here. I wouldn't have. I mean, I liked it, but I didn't love it. I did recently watch Schitt's Creek, and I liked that. I liked Modern Family. I didn't really consider Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is my all-time favorite show in the entire world. But even though she's a comedian, I didn't consider that a sitcom. I thought it was more of a drama. Okay, I apologize for
situational comedy.
It makes sense now, but that would have been my top. Okay. Anyways, Last Man Standing, and what you didn't add was only 2, which is Friends. I really like Friends. And I learned this today. I think Nick told us about the show. Did you? The show Dave?
Mike and Nick?
Yeah.
I know. I thought Nick recommended it to us. But anyways, that was a great show. And I just learned that today that was a sitcom. And I loved that show. I think he's hilarious.
Dave is hilarious.
Yes.
Again, we're talking about the show, not my old high school friend Dave, though he is a pretty funny fella. So, but yes, Dave, on FX, which you can watch on Hulu, follows several days in the life of the amazing rapper Lil Dicky.
I love that show. It's
aka
so funny.
Dave Bird. Am I getting his last name correct there? But no, it's really, really funny.
It was so funny.
That's definitely a show that there's some parts in there that I've died at. That show's outrageous.
Yes, very, very, very funny show. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember which one of us told the other one to watch Dave.
Yeah, it might have been me.
We're like,
I feel like we're on maybe I was on like a little Dicky kick. I don't know. I can't remember.
It was a good show.
I attribute that to both of us because I think I'll give it to both of us from that one.
It's a good
nice.
one.
I'll take that. I'll take that point.
I'm hoping there's a season 2 of that one.
Yeah, I believe there is.
There is a season 2.
Yeah.
Oh wait, this is season
3.
That's what.
That's what you're looking for.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
That was it for me.
What about you, Nick? What are some of your honorable mentions?
So, honorable mentions, and these are in order of like most recommended. Maybe we'll have to do like another top 3 and pick some of these, talk about them more.
Top
but
3 honorable mentions.
This one's so new, and not necessarily new, but it's gotten such a popular run here since it hit Netflix. But Schitt's Creek, can't recommend that enough. There's so much to say about that show. It's just excellent, and I like it a lot. We need to finish it. It's one that Aaron and I have been kind of working through, but we kind of like leaned off a little bit as to not crush it. So at one night I was like, we're on the last season and it's like half over and then it's going to be done. So
it's a shame that once you watch a show, you can never watch it again.
I don't feel like I can. There's a lot
you
of
watch The Office like 3 times in a row, like literally in a row.
No. I did.
She watched New Girl in between.
Yes, that's right. But I don't watch other shows over again. That surprises me that you like Schitt's Creek. I don't know why, but I didn't.
Watch your mouth.
I don't know how to say it without it sounding like I'm saying a word.
Swearing.
You have a.
I always, whenever I say it on my talk about it on Instagram, I'm like Schitt's Creek. Like I like. Say
I watched this show.
Yeah, there's a creek in it. But that is a good show. That's what Mike picked for my top 1.
I figured that would be up there because you thoroughly enjoyed it.
I did enjoy it. It's a good one.
Excellent show. Then Silicon Valley on HBO. Very, very good show. I enjoy that a lot. Mm-hmm. Dave, obviously, love that show. That one, I think it needs some more seasons and it might wrestle its way into the top 5. And I think Schitt's Creek needs some time to kind of curate into pop culture. And I think I could place it definitively. Letterkenny. If either
you would probably hate it.
You might hate it, but it's also really funny. If you just get in the mindset there, it's hilarious.
In the Rick and Morty mindset. Tweak it.
No. In that Canadian mindset. F is for Family. Good old Bill Burr, Netflix original.
Yes.
It has its ups and downs, but it's a pretty good show, and there's some funny moments, especially as far as family goes in the 70s. And then, The Office, Scrubs, just down there and the recommended. Then I have 2 picks here. No, 3 are Aaron picks that I approve of. So New Girl. I approve of Friends. I haven't actually sat down and watched Friends, but she's seen it 3 or 4 times since we've been together. So I feel like I've seen most all of it. And then I haven't seen this, but she said How I Met Your Mother. She likes, but I can't speak to that one.
So this is 2 episodes in a row that Aaron's put together a pretty solid list.
Yeah.
I think it's about time that she joins you one of these times.
Burn her out.
Working on it.
Yeah. What was it? There was a show on there on your list that I was going to say something about, but I forgot.
It was fair. Letterkenny, Dave, Silicon Valley, Schitt's Creek.
Oh, Silicon Valley. So have you got have you gotten to the episode of Community? I think it's the last paintball fight.
The last paintball fight, I just started it
Okay.
last night.
And
Did not finish that episode. Finishing it tonight.
Okay, because I
want to pause. I'll finish it right now.
Yeah.
And be back in 20.
Yeah, go ahead. But no, when I was trying to explain to you who Kumail Nanjiani was last week when we were talking about his rom-com, The Big Sick, I was like, oh, he's actually in like 2 random episodes of Community. One of them is that episode that you're on right now, but you weren't like putting it together.
He's a janitor. He's a janitor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's in Silicon Valley.
Yes. He's funny.
Yeah, that episode you're on is pretty funny. I enjoyed that one a lot. But yeah, I think there was something else I was gonna say, but I don't remember. Oh, F is for Family, another animated one, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm surprised you didn't try to weasel Star Wars in there somehow with like Clone Wars or Rebels being a sitcom.
I will say that kind of like version 1 of my top 3 was going to be, I don't know which order, but it was going to be just the 3 S's there. So Schitt's Creek, Silicon Valley, and South Park. But it got rearranged several times. So somewhere in there, Schitt's Creek and Silicon Valley are in my top 3. One of my top 3s. I have 3 top 3s. So I have a top 9.
Nice. Now that I have access to HBO, I need to watch Silicon Valley. I've heard a lot of great things about that show.
It's funny.
So for my honorable mentions, so I threw WandaVision on here at the last minute. You should watch it. It's pretty great. Less comedic and more superhero-y, but it is kind of funny at times.
Yeah, there is comic relief in it.
But the rest of these shows on here are all old shows from like either the late 90s or like early 2000s.
There are classics on there.
So like we got Freaks and Geeks, one and done, 1 season, great show. Sadly did not live on past 1 season. And that had like young Seth Rogen, young John Franco, or one
Dave.
of the Francos.
There's so many.
Just like a lot of that.
James Franco.
A lot of that like crew there kind of like started out on Freaks and Geeks. Like pretty much the whole cast are all super famous actors now, which is hilarious. Malcolm in the Middle, Drew Carey Show, King of Queens, Everybody Loves Raymond, The Bernie Mac Show, Grounded for Life, and The Birthplace of Ryan Reynolds. 2 guys, a girl, and a pizza place.
I've never seen that.
But I watched like all of those shows when I was a youngin' with my parents.
Yep.
They're all, I have fond memories of all of those shows.
Aw, that's fun. My dad was like, I hope you guys mention Everybody Loves Raymond.
I thought about putting that on my honorable mention.
There you go, Trent.
Good job.
Got you.
It's for you.
Everybody Loves Raymond.
Freaks and Geeks has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, by the way.
Yeah, it's a really good show.
That one either.
I'll rewatch it with you.
Okay.
I mean, it's old.
It's on Hulu.
Thanks, Nick.
He's got us. But yeah, I mean, like the Bernie Mac show was hysterical. Grounded for Life was one of those like sleeper picks where it's like kind of overlooked a lot. But
I didn't see it.
Yeah, I mean, all those shows. Our friend Garrett, who I talked about last week, him and his wife graciously lent us the entire DVD set of King of Queens. We just were plowing through Community and hadn't started it. And then when we finished Community, our DVD player broke upstairs, and we just have been too lazy to come downstairs and watch it.
So pathetic.
Or move our DVD player from downstairs to upstairs. But one day I will rewatch that show with Bekah, and it will be great because that show was hysterical.
Yeah, I can see that.
Kevin James, and
that was another one my dad mentioned. He's like, that's a good one.
Jerry Stiller is in that show, and he's hysterical. And I always forget her name, but Leah Remy or something like that, who is like hardcore into Scientology for a really long time, and then
yeah.
recently escaped within the last several years.
She's in that Netflix documentary.
Yes. Great show though. But yeah, that pretty much rounds out my honorable mentions. And then I had Parks and Rec, South Park, and Rick and Morty, which we already talked about from your guys' lists. So I guess that brings us to our listener picks. So you guys, any last words on the honorable mentions before we move on? No? All right. So we had 4 submissions on our Discord. And the first one coming from our stonk boy, Trash Can Mike. He says, in no particular order, Parks and Rec, awesome cast, awesome character development, overall great show, gave birth to all things Ron Swanson. He also has It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, infinitely rewatchable, always gets a laugh, and great cast of characters. And then this classic from the 90s, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Watched when I was a kid, nostalgic, and who doesn't love that intro? Hard to argue with that. Those are 3 great shows. Our friend Rachel's Holiday, she says Parks and Rec, Community, and Emily in Paris. And she says, I'm not 100% sure this would count as a sitcom, but I'm reasonably confident it does.
I love that show.
I've never heard of it, but
it's a good one.
If Bekah's watched it, then it's 98% confirmed to be a sitcom.
It's probably true. I feel like we could be friends. I like those shows that she suggested.
Next, we have our great friend Tim Bushman. He said The Golden Girls, The Nanny, and Married with Children, which I'm about 100% sure that's a troll list, but thank you, Tim. We appreciate your input all the time. What a guy. And then the one and only Bianca, Trash Can Mike's better half, I believe. Did I get that right?
That is correct.
Yes. What a great duo of Discord members they are. She has Parks and Rec. She says consistently hilarious and brilliantly uses a variety of character types. The interactions between these varied characters are what make the show so good, but the overarching idea of togetherness makes for feel-good moments too. Well said. I think that's a pretty good summation of why Parks and Rec is a great show. She has Schitt's Creek, excellent character development. The show is absolutely hilarious, but they throw in well-timed emotional moments too. Hey, I'm not the only one that enjoys that in my sitcoms.
Gotta have them.
Then immediately uses a joke to get you laughing again. Many characters in the show have iconic nuances that only pertain to them and help build your love for the character even further. You, David, which...
Don't say it right.
Ew.
Sorry. I tried to watch this show and...
He had a hard time with it.
Literally could not make it through an entire episode.
He was annoyed with every cast member.
This is the dumbest show ever. But you guys both love it.
It was a great show.
David's the best.
He is.
It's on a lot of lists. So I must be alone in my...
It's a hipster trend.
It must be.
It's too cool for Mike.
And then she also has Letterkenny. This show has had me cry laughing many times. The different cliques of people and their interactions with each other are so well thought out and hilarious. What I love the most about Letterkenny is that they aren't afraid to push the boundaries of appropriateness. They purposefully play up the cringe factor, and the payoff is pure gold. I've never seen Letterkenny, but I've heard a lot of great things about that show. So
it's hilarious.
Yeah, those are our listener picks. And once again, thank you guys for taking the time to answer our topic question this week in our Discord. And we always enjoy and appreciate your input. Means a lot to us, and we like interacting and engaging with you guys. So keep it coming. I think we picked our top 12 sitcoms.
should keep people busy for like the next year if they haven't seen them all. So
Yeah. And I think one of the good things about sitcoms are they have a lot of rewatch value. So even if you've already seen them, maybe it's been a little while, go back and rewatch them. You'll be in for a good time. You guys have any closing remarks before we wrap this bad boy up?
I think we're gonna have to do some deep dive episodes on some of these, maybe if we can collectively land on ones that we've seen, which I think there's a handful in there. But
I feel like every episode we do, we end with this episode could spawn like 5 more episodes.
Yeah.
Which it's always true.
Yeah. There's more to discuss here. More to discuss.
As always. But yeah, I think that wraps up the episode tonight. Thank you, Bekah, for joining us. We hope you had fun.
anytime, boys.
Yeah.
Show boys.
Sorry, it's past your bedtime.
I know. I just looked at him like
Tomorrow's gonna be rough.
Kids are taking care of themselves.
I do the dishes, right? Or did you say kids?
Kids.
I was like, you already did this.
Yes, but I do have to do the dishes. Yes. Also, I mean, it was just nice to be joined by an actual famous person too.
Oh my gosh, stop
This
it.
is true.
It feels so awkward when you say that.
You're famous.
I hate when he does that.
You're famous to him. He wants
very-
10,000 followers on Instagram.
Yeah, maybe one day we will reach the status of modern day design 16.
Well, if you let me redo your office and mess around with your dolls.
Well, first off, you did my office.
Yeah, but I
She
barely.
needs to redo it.
Exactly. It's all about content, Mike.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but go ahead and plug yourself. We let everyone plug themselves.
But I've never done that before.
That is when you say, yes, you can follow me on Instagram at
Modern Day Design 16.
for all of your DIY and home decor / basic white girl content needs.
I'm slightly offended, but also, yes, that is what you will expect from my page.
Yes. And help her get to 11,000 followers, which I think she's really close to.
I am.
I also don't know why I'm cupping my mouth because I'm talking into a microphone. But yeah, you're coming up on 11,000, right?
It's true.
So
You are a local celebrity. Everybody knows you.
I
Yeah.
know. It makes me feel really uncomfortable because then when you see me in person and you try to talk to him, I'm just like, it's happened multiple times.
Yep.
And you can expect awkwardness every time.
But yeah, thanks. It was fun. Whenever we started doing this, I always thought it'd be fun to have you on an episode, and we finally found a topic that you would be able to talk about.
Yeah,
and
and-
like.
Can we start doing like Bachelor series and Bridgerton? I know a lot of gals that would be interested. Eh?
Well,
Should we take a
are.
poll?
The show gals.
There you go. I mean, we're always looking to build the Showboys brand, so we can do a spin-off podcast, all things Bridgerton, your Bridgerton companion series featuring the famous Bekah.
I feel so
Stop saying it.
Yes, but enough with your plugs. Now it's our turn. Yeah, again, let me beg. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not begging, but you can join our Discord, and you should. It's a lot of fun, and I've already mentioned it enough. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Showboys Podcast. You can find all of the links to those pages, all of our podcasting platforms that are audio version of our episodes are available to listen on, as well as the link to our YouTube channel, which if you're watching the live stream now, you already know. You can find all of those links at linktr.ee/showboyspodcast. And while we have you, we just like to ask that, you rate, review, subscribe, like, comment, follow on all those, applicable platforms that you consume our content. Things like rating and reviewing and subscribing, it just helps us weasel our way into the algorithms and reach new people and new audiences. So every little review or rating or subscription helps. We're also trying to get to 100 subscribers on our YouTube channel so we can get a fancy custom URLs that makes it a lot easier to find us on YouTube. So if you're here and you like what you heard, please subscribe. Let us know how we're doing. And yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning into the live stream. And yeah, have a good one.
Cue the music.
Awkward live stream end.
No music.